this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Lowe's knows Sundays are for football, so tackle your home improvement projects by Saturday and earn your Sunday with great deals on LG and Bosch appliances, select Bounty and Swiffer cleaning products, and more. Then once your to-do list is done, get ready to kick back, relax, and enjoy the game. Shop in-store or online now and earn your Sunday with help from Lowe's, official partner of the NFL.
Wasabi is purpose-built to free your business from skyrocketing storage costs and fees. Wasabi is the go-to provider for professional and collegiate sports teams around the world. Check out Wasabi's AI-enabled intelligent media storage, Wasabi Air, to the industry's only cloud storage service with triple protection against cyber criminals. Wasabi, driving innovation in data storage for up to 80% less than market competition. Try for free at wasabi.com. Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage, proud partner of the iHeart Podcast Network.
You're about to listen to the Late Round Fantasy Football Show, which originally aired on YouTube. If you'd like to catch the show live this offseason, you can head to the Late Round Fantasy Football YouTube channel, youtube.com/@LateRoundFF. We'll be live each Wednesday at noon Eastern. Without further ado, here's this week's episode.
Welcome in. David Kitchen here, COO of Late Round Media, one of three now, because we do have another guy, Brandon Gadula, who's with us. He's not on the show with us, but if you are a newsletter subscriber, you saw his newsletter this morning.
Yeah.
Well done, Mr. Brandon. And I also have CEO, the man, the myth, the legend, JJ Zacharyson. Free. No more burdens of that Steelers laundry, JJ.
They're the only burden in my life is Luther Burden.
Oh,
That was good, right? I got to say one thing before we get going. Everyone, it's David Kitchen's 30th birthday today.
yeah, sure. 30.
30, right?
Yeah.
You're 30.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to our COO. Very happy that you are the COO. And I hope you have a good one. I hope the girls treat you right. I hope, and for the record, I mean,
daughters,
his daughter's
wife. Yes, gotcha. Yeah.
He doesn't have like multiple.
Not some
wives
organizer over here. No.
Yeah. Hope they treat you right. You can, after this show, you can take off the rest of the day if you want. How's that?
I've got some work to do, JJ, so I will not be taking off. I did though. Did you, just a little bit behind the scenes, did you do your Super Bowl NFL stuff yet?
Super Bowl NFL stuff. No, I have not. No.
Let's do that.
I'll do that today.
It's going to be awkward if we get to Radio Row and they're like, you, Kitchen, you can come in.
Yeah, Kitchen's just going to do the late round show from Radio Row this year.
That'd be like the worst. That'd be like the worst ever. If it was just me and not you. Sometimes I worry that my edition, Brandon's edition, is putting too much on your plate. Have you ever done a way too early QB rankings like this before?
No, this isn't really my wheelhouse / the kind of content that I always do. But I know that this is the kind of content that people really want, and they want some early takes, and I get all that. I want the caveat, though, the blank statement caveat.
Yes.
That this is insanely early. The research has only just begun. This is definitely not how I necessarily will feel come, like June, July-ish, whenever I'm actually, producing some of those, maybe May, producing those rankings for redraft purposes. But I do think it's a fun exercise to go through and, talk about where I want to rank these guys, these quarterbacks. We'll do it by position. So the next 4 weeks, well, technically it's 5 because we're going to take a break for the Super Bowl, but the next 5 weeks, we're going to go position by position. So next week we'll do running back, then wide receiver, and then tight end. But to me, this is sort of like, this is our first real offseason with the Late Round Fantasy Football Show. This is sort of the playground, if you will, from like a content perspective, where like we can do stuff like this. Whereas the flagship show, the Late Round Podcast, you're going to get more of the boom, 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 like very serious takes. This is a little bit looser and more of like a place where this is where my mind is generally going, as opposed to like my concrete takes, which you're going to find on the flagship show.
There you go. That's what I was going to tell everyone. It's just that don't hold JJ to it, but it is good just to think about, and it is fun. And we've talked about this, Pat. When you have a dynasty team, if you're not in a dynasty league and you're listening to the show right now in January, get in a dynasty league. If you are a Patreon member, we've got a league finder in there where tons of dynasty leagues open up. So join the Patreon, join the late round community on Discord. It's a great community. Also, again, JJ, newsletter. We're just beefing it up this year. Yeah.
It's popping. Gadula had a great newsletter that went out today about how, and I didn't even realize this, but he wrote about how playoff snap rates for rookies are actually more predictive of next season's snap rates for those rookies. So they turn into second-year players, obviously, than the whole season, regular season snap rates. So so then he highlighted at each position the guys who saw really good snap rates this past week and what that could mean for 2026 in that season. And so it's a great newsletter. Brandon's doing awesome work. We have a lot more coming. Also, just so we're clear, Kitchen's not 30. I think some people might be taking that seriously.
If they want to take it that serious, they can.
I think that's a compliment to you that you can pass for 30 right now. That's pretty impressive.
I got a baby face over here.
Yeah.
So I'm good with it.
You should be good with it.
If you think I'm 30, I'm definitely good with that.
He's actually 51 today, guys.
And remember, this is an interactive show. I'm not 51. I'm 42. 42.
Big 4-2.
There you go. 41 was a good year. It also, 6'7", JJ. 41 is kind of like a 6'7".
Yeah, I the 41 thing came out of nowhere one day with my daughter, and I was like, I had no idea.
I tried to warn you. I did try to warn you. Like whenever I was trying to, I was like, have you ever heard of the 6'7" thing? And you're like, no.
When was this?
This was like in the spring. You had not.
So you were like a 6'7" hipster.
No, not at all. In fact, I was late to the party, but you did not have kids that were like in that preteen age. So like
correct.
You were
She's a second grader. Yeah.
Right. You're getting that. It's kind of like we say in like here on the East Coast dads, we're later to the trends because they started in California and they kind of move their way over. Yeah, it's kind of the way with trends for you. And then when you're in the middle of those trends, you'll just realize I want to get out of here.
Oh, it's horrible. I mean, it's like I guess last year, like if it were in the spring, my daughter would have been in first grade, and so that's even more to the point that I'm lagging with some of that stuff.
Let me out of here. All right. So yeah, subscribe to the newsletter. We got some good stuff going on. Of course, if you're not subscribed here, please do so and interact with the show. And as far as this show, again, we're going to do our best. We're going to do our best to get these rankings down, but no promises. And with that, JJ, you ready to get to the news?
Let's do it.
Today's fantasy news.
All right, let's start with the wild card review, JJ. Let's just start with your overall assessment of the wild card games.
I thought they were awesome from just entertainment. Even the Monday night game. Yeah, Monday night game was a little rough. Well, actually, the Monday night game was fine until that fumble from Rodgers, and then everything just kind of collapsed after that play. But yeah, I mean, like the Steelers' offense played pretty atrociously, which was to be expected. I thought they had a legit chance to win that game going in, and just because of lower scoring, some variance and such. But then, in the start of the fourth quarter or so, the Texans showed why they are clearly the better team. But the wild card round I thought was awesome. And we're seeing, the cool thing for me is that there's almost like this new quarterback crop that's sort of that 2024 class is really stepping up. You now have Drake May obviously being a stud. Caleb Williams has looked a lot better in my opinion, even if data doesn't always match it. I think that Caleb Williams has that it factor, if you will. And I mean, that fourth down throw was one of the best throws I've ever seen in my life. That was
insane.
Just absurd. And if you watch that game, and of course, if you're a Packers fan, you hate it. But if you watch that game and you don't get a reaction out of yourself watching Caleb Williams do that, I don't know if football is a sport for you, because that play was everything, in my opinion, from just like a drama standpoint, a coming of age standpoint, everything. It just had it. And so that was really good to see. I think that the rivalry between the Packers and Bears kind of being reborn the way that it's been reborn, and Ben Johnson saying what he said in the locker room that pissed off a lot of people. I think it's good for the game, like just in general. So like all of those storylines happening. I thought the biggest disappointment was probably the Chargers offense of the weekend. Like a lot of the stuff, I mean, I shouldn't say that. The Philly offense was really disappointing too. I think that was the biggest surprise to me. The surprise outcome to me was the San Francisco-Philadelphia game. I thought Philadelphia was going to easily win that game because San Francisco's down multiple linebackers, basically their whole linebacker core. They have, George Kittle goes down early. And then you have this Philly offense that, yes, has struggled throughout the season because Kevin Patullo was the worst offensive coordinator in all of football this year. Just given the talent that he had and the ridiculous, I have some data that I'll talk about later. But Kevin Patullo should have been fired. He should have been fired, in my opinion, partway through the season. It was that bad, that atrocious. But it was still a shocking outcome. AJ Brown had one of the worst games I've ever seen him play, in that game. And so I think that we're going to see some changes, with Philadelphia based on that outcome. But then I also take a step back and I look, and I think that the big difference right now is the teams that are remaining either have elite coaching or Josh Allen, right? Like it's just you have a phenomenal coach at this point, or you have a literal, deity at quarterback in Josh Allen, a guy who just can do no wrong. Throughout, his playoff history has been great, even though they've gotten L's, but he is the best quarterback remaining by far, in my opinion. In terms of who you would want to have, people are going to say Matthew Stafford and such, but who can just take over games? Josh Allen is that. And, nothing against McDermott, but I don't think that he would have nearly the success without Josh Allen, right? You just look across the board. It's just good coach after good coach. And so I think that's a huge, huge story of this playoff right now.
Yeah, for sure. I've told you my Super Bowl desire is Bears and Bills.
That'd be fun. I
think if we were at Radio Row, just putting myself there'd be so much buzz about the Bears and the Bills.
I think a realistic, my pre-playoff, I had some misses. I thought the Packers were going to beat the Bears. I thought the 49ers or the Eagles were going to beat the 49ers. So I had some misses at the beginning, but my playoff pick entering the playoffs was a Bills Rams Super Bowl, because I just think that the AFC has a lot of flaws in it. Look, if New England plays the way they played against the Chargers, I think they could easily do it. Right.
Right.
But the AFC has some flawed teams. So I think, I'm just going to lean towards who the best player in that conference is remaining, which is Josh Allen. And the Rams, I think, have the most complete team. You could argue Seattle pretty easily too. The defense is just so good. It's just really hard to trust Sam Darnold. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope, I would love to see Seattle do that and see a Seattle Buffalo. Whatever. I think there's a lot of good iterations remaining, but yes, I think it would break everything if we get these two fan bases that have just needed this for so long to one of them, naturally get a W if they're both in the Super Bowl.
Okay, let's move on to some of the news items that happened in those games, and then we'll get on to the firings and everything else heading into next season. But George Kittle, that was a bummer.
Yeah, did you see the Kyle Shanahan clip of him thanking George he's like, "Where's George?" And I think when the game was over,
no,
he was like, "Thanks, brother, love you." It was almost like I know that this is likely.
Well, the team owner followed him into the locker room. You got a playoff game going on.
Yeah, look,
the locker room.
You're 32 years old, you tear an Achilles, and you play an explosive style of ball. It's going to be pretty difficult for George Kittle to come back and be, the George Kittle of old. I'm not saying it's impossible because modern medicine is totally different than it was even 10 years ago, especially with these Achilles injuries. But it's definitely, I've got Kittle in Dynasty, and that went through my head also, more so after the fact. At first, I'm just like, oh my God, this sucks, because I wanted to watch George Kittle do stuff in the playoffs. And if the 49ers go on a run, you would want to see George Kittle be part of that. Not only that, Kitchen, this matchup against Seattle this week, Seattle's been pretty weak against tight ends if they are weak against any position, and they could really have used Kittle, in that spot. So
they got Jake Tonjes. They've got wide receivers named Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they would rather have George Kittle than Jake Tonjes at this point. But yeah, I mean, like, I have someone right now in chat saying, JJ, we got to figure out the hair in the front of the snapback. What are you saying? My hair is coming down underneath the snapback. Sorry, I have hair. Okay, sorry. Sometimes it goes. No, I mean, I keep it there. You like it there? You're saying?
Yeah. Back in my day, and I'm dating myself, but back in my day, we had the bangs underneath. They would like just flow underneath it. Yeah.
You would kind of I mean, what does this matter?
Your hair is in that in between category where it's not like below the band, and it's not long enough where you can go.
I'm sorry, I don't hop onto a YouTube live stream caring about where my hair is. I'm trying to give football takes, people.
We said this was an interactive show. We should have clarified.
Yeah,
your lighting looks great though.
I don't need to sit here and. Sorry, next week I'll wear a tuxedo. Is that better for you guys? I'll do my hair. I'll do all that, and then it'll make you feel better, Evan. Okay. All right. No. So with the 49ers, it's sad with George Kittle. I have him in some dynasty leagues and such, and I think that if you do have him in dynasty, you lost about a round of capital or equity with Kittle. If he was like a second rounder, he's more like a third rounder now. It's just sad that kind of thing happens, and then hopefully we get to see Ricky Pearsall, but I haven't seen any updates on Pearsall.
No, I haven't either. They desperately need him. Evan said, look, man, it's great takes. Let's just look as great as it takes. And then Bingo says, look good, play good.
Wow. All right. I little did I know people actually care about what I look like on these
JJ
things.
will find out that Evan Hill is actually JJ's wife.
Yeah, right.
That actually would be pretty good. All right. Let's go to Nico Collins and that Texans passing offense.
Yeah. We need Nico to play for a lot of reasons. But look, I think that one of the big differences in that game against Pittsburgh this past, now I'm going to change my hair, change my hat. Here, look, I'll do this so that it's not, my hair's long right now. What can I say? Yeah. All right. That's a little bit better. I think one of the big differences in that Steelers-Texans games was actually wide receiver play, period. Like if you want to, obviously the defense was different, but like if you think about the turnovers that CJ Stroud had as sort of an equalizer of the Texans defense just being so much better than Pittsburgh's, I think one of the key differences in that game was depth at wide receiver and just wide receiver play in general. Christian Kirk, Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins, all of them would easily be the two on that Pittsburgh team. And Nico Collins going down, sure, they lose a step because it's Nico Collins. He's one of the best wide receivers in the game. But they have really good backups. They have really good depth at that position, and they've shown that depth all year long. Even Xavier Hutchinson isn't that bad of a player. So, if Nico's out, I do expect a lot of those guys to obviously step up. Jaden Higgins, I think, has been a pretty underrated player all season long. You guys already know how I feel about Jalen Noel. And then Christian Kirk balled out against Pittsburgh. He had a great game. So obviously we want Nico Collins to play, and the Texans would need him to play and want him to play. But at least they do have some depth at the position that they could overcome, a 1 week concussion, with Nico.
All right. What about Woody Marks though?
I mean, he looked good.
Yeah. I thought he did too. On the Swolecast, Davis said that he didn't think he looked as good.
People have been hating on Woody Marks all year.
I think they're just a hate to hate.
There's been a lot, because look, he hasn't had the best rushing metrics in the world. He's been a volume dependent, and I was someone, anyone who listened to the show all season, you guys know that I was standing for Woody Marks since week 1 of last year, just as a ambiguous backfield situation and a player that the Zap model actually didn't mind, despite the fact that he was a little bit older and but he had a good receiving profile and he has some juice. And I think that to me is the difference. When you have a very incomplete offensive line like Houston does, you gotta kind of, in my opinion, you kind of have to evaluate running backs by, yes, hopefully you can see their vision and what they're thinking when holes develop. But when there's a bad offensive line, those holes don't develop as often. So there's not as many chances / opportunities for you to evaluate that. And so you have to kind of lean back on just like, does that person and that player have the juice? And to me, Woody Marks has that. I mean, he has juice in his game. Standard, typically we see these day 3 backs kind of disappear. We saw this with Dameon Pierce a few years ago, right? For the same exact Houston team. And so from like a long-term standpoint, I don't know if I'm going to be like overly bullish on Woody Marks, but people really don't like Marks. They really don't think he's that good. I think he's fine. And I think that, the weird part about Marks is they still haven't totally deployed him and allowed him to use his bread and butter, which is pass catching. Like that's where he can really crush. And so I think he's a good player. I think it was a good pick for them. And obviously it's paying dividends now here in the playoffs.
Yeah. I just pasted a little segment from Mr. Gadula's newsletter blurb today in the late round newsletter, but I wanted to highlight this. I felt like this was at least a fun stat. Yes. Cause he played 71% of the snaps, and he said the 70% snap rate for a rookie in a playoff game is fairly rare since 2013. Tim names on that list. These are fun. David Johnson, Giovanni Bernard, Cam Akers, Zeke Elliott, Christian McCaffrey, Devin Singletary, Kareem Hunt, Woody Marks, Kenneth Walker III, and Leonard Fournette.
Yeah. And look, like any of those guys, like I could see, I don't think he's going to go a Cam Akers. Like Cam Akers' career got derailed because of injury, right? Like more than anything else. I could see him having like a Devin Singletary type impact in the league. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can get RB2 production in fantasy at times, in the right environment. So yeah. I think Woody Marks is a solid player.
Okay. Tyrell Shavers tore his ACL in that game.
Dude.
I mean, what are we going to do?
But did you see he played the second half on a torn ACL?
Yeah.
That's insane.
A little bit of your COO lore is that,
you did that in basketball?
I tore my ACL with like 5 games left in the season, and I had never missed a home game before basketball. And it was our senior night. So I grabbed my buddy's his like big honking knee brace, put it on, and could barely run, but shot the lights out, scored 17.
Ooh.
Was so good that they put it in the paper.
Wow. Is that the one that the clip that gets tossed around sometimes that I've seen?
No, this is a different one. But my surgeon, who was also the Titans surgeon at the time, saw it in the paper and called me and was pissed.
Oh, because it makes it worse.
You said you could have done a lot of damage, but jokes on him because I didn't. Because I still can't straighten my left knee out all the way.
Yeah. No, I mean, like it's crazy though that he was able to do it. It's like Phillip Rivers did that in the playoffs the one year on his ACL.
Grit. But what are you gonna do with those receivers though in Buffalo? I
mean, it's gonna be they're gonna not rotate nearly as much, right? They're gonna use a lot of Brandon Cooks, Khalil Shakir, and Keon Coleman. I think is gonna have to be a full-time player, and you got to hope for the best. I mean, the one thing I will say is that I think if the Bills run against this Denver team, it's smarter to run more 12 personnel anyway. And I think they're going to lean in on that a little bit more. And that's going to allow for the running game to get going a little bit more too, probably. So I think that, yes, it's a big deal, but in the end, we're not talking, this isn't like Nico Collins tore his ACL. This isn't like some stud tore. Yeah. It's just that Gabe Davis is hurt too. He tore his ACL. I mean, like the whole team, the depth that they had.
It's really like, all right, Coleman, get in there.
Yeah, I mean, like we have no choice now. We might have benched you throughout the season, but now, hey, Keon, what's going on, buddy? So we'll see. We'll see. I do think though that 12 personnel is the way that they should be running that offense to beat Denver in particular. And so the injury matters, of course, because you want the depth, but it might not make as big of an impact as people would originally think.
Okay, we had some offensive coordinator firings, and I tweeted this just thinking like I want a chart of all the offensive coordinators that are going to be like replaced next year, because you have so many new coaches. So you assume that new coaches bring in an offensive coordinator. And then you also have teams that are just firing their offensive coordinators.
Yeah.
Who are some of the recent teams to fire their offensive coordinators? Eagles, Detroit.
Yeah.
There was another one. But as far as like the new offensive coordinators plus the coaching changes, what's your just overall take on this?
Yeah, I think that the one that I'm most interested to see is Mike McDaniel, because I think I think
he might be the Titans head coach, though.
He could be, but I do think that there's, if he's not a head coach, because there's a lot of openings for head coaches, so you can't say that he won't be.
Yeah.
By the way, I think Mike McDaniel was actually a pretty good head. Like, say what you want about Tomlin and his record and all this kind of stuff. Like, Mike McDaniel was not that bad in Miami.
It's a hot take, but he's my number one.
No, I think Mike McDaniel
for the Titans.
I think he'd be a great offensive coordinator. If you get Mike McDaniel in Detroit, I mean, that'll feed families. That is an insane pairing, in my opinion.
I know it was Greg Roman was the other offensive coordinator.
The Chargers are the other one. Yeah. And I think the Greg Roman firing is huge it has huge fantasy implications. People are going to be like, might have the reaction that it's a bad thing for like an Amari and Hampton, because Greg Roman has that power run scheme and he loves to have this like ground game approach the way he does. Number one, they were very pass heavy to start last year until all the offensive line injuries happened. Right. But number two, I'm not really that if a running back can play, a running back can play. Of course, there's going to be certain schemes that are going to help that running back. And I would assume they're going to hire somebody who could fit with Amari and Hampton. But Amari and Hampton is not just he would only be able to be good in Greg Roman's offense. Like, he's a pretty well-rounded back. So I wouldn't really be concerned about that. I'm more so just interested to see what direction they generally go, because they have such good weapons there. Not such good, but like really strong weapons there. And the other thing, they fired their offensive line coach. This is going to be one of those situations where this is how I feel similarly with Mike Tomlin. So Tomlin leaving, and we'll talk about that in a second, I know. But Tomlin leaving, everyone's like, oh, just watch the Steelers not have a winning season next year. Yeah, well, the Steelers are also going to have a tougher schedule next year, more than likely, just even when you calculate based on like win totals and stuff, because they won the division. So anytime you win the division, you're going to see tougher opponents the following year, right? And so like that's naturally going to happen. There's naturally going to be some regression, more than likely. Same thing with this like offensive line coach for the Chargers. Their offensive line is going to play so much better when guys are healthy on that line. Two huge additions to that line will be happening, next year. And so with them being healthy. And so when that happens, of course the offensive line is going to be better. It's not just the offensive line coach as to why that's happening. So make sure you're looking at the correlation and causality of these things. But yeah, I mean, I think that my favorite pairing would be Mike McDaniel in Detroit. I've seen McDaniel in Philly, but I think there's going to be more change to that. I'm not going to be surprised if AJ Brown's gone, this offseason and such, just based on vibes.
I think he's gone.
And so there's a lot of change happening in Philly that, I mean, Detroit is the team that already has everything in place for Mike McDaniel to just crush and just destroy.
Two other names that got fired, but the head coach did not get fired. Bucs offensive coordinator Josh Grizzard, yep, and then Cliff Kingsbury with the Washington Commanders.
Yeah.
So that's five.
All good spots, all really good spots.
Right. That's five in addition to all these head coach openings that are coming open. So it should be fun from just trying to guess what these coordinators are going to bring. And Mike Tomlin, I'm just going to give you the floor right now with all these head coach openings.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want regarding Mike Tomlin.
Look, born and raised Pittsburgh, talked about this plenty on this show. Went to countless Steeler games, had some of my favorite, best memories as a sports fan because of Mike Tomlin, with him leading the charge of my favorite team. I said this in a tweet. I think it was just time for this to all happen. There can be divorces that occur that are mutual and everyone feels like it's the right choice and the right time. I've seen the responses on both sides. I think that one thing that I am a little bit upset about is how just like gross some people have been about it, just like celebrating and cheering like crazy, in video and stuff like that without realizing that like he's still a good coach that allowed you to have a lot of good stuff happen to your favorite team. You can look at it that way while also being excited about what could be possibly coming for this Steelers franchise, because, I think he's a great motivator, a great leader, someone who can get the most out of his players. But when it comes to the combination of, two things are happening in Pittsburgh. They haven't had a franchise quarterback since Ben Roethlisberger left, right?
Yeah.
And the tail end of Roethlisberger's career, he was a shell of himself too.
Yeah, it's feeling a little Browns-esque.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't had anything since Roethlisberger, and they've tried, and they've been doing this stupid thing where they go out and I actually don't think it's that stupid from a quarterback perspective as like a bridge just to see like, oh, will Russell Wilson get it back, or will Justin Fields get it back, or Mitch Trubisky or Aaron Rodgers, will he be serviceable for us to maybe get lucky and have some variance hit in the playoffs? The thing that annoys me more is that they think that they can consistently go out. I think that Joe Hayden had an impact on the way that they've been building this team, because he had success late in his career as an older player, and they found him, they went out and they got him, but they've been doing that at like corner for years now. And they go out and they get these like 30-plus-year-old corners, and, they go out and they get Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay this past year, and things just don't work that way because of that one thing happening. I think they have this notion that they can get these like veterans. Now, there are some good pieces on this team that are younger that they can build off of, especially on the defensive side of the ball, that are exciting. But I do think they need to just rebuild this team and, start from scratch and find somebody that, like, I think what they're going to do, I think Chris Shula is going to be the next head coach for the Steelers. That's my guess. And I think that he could bring on, some innovative young offensive coordinator, possibly from the Rams. And they build something together. And it's a young hire, as they've done with Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin. And they, maybe get a Malik Willis this offseason, or go that route to just see, while also thinking about the future and not necessarily needing to make the playoffs next year, and just realize that they need to rebuild, because the Steelers perpetually have this idea in their head. Ownership has this idea in their head that they should always be contenders, but that's just not how it works in the NFL. I mean, you got to at one point have some high draft picks to be able to have a chance at that franchise quarterback. So look, my feelings on Tomlin are, this was time. I'm very much in the middle of where people stand of him being a good coach and a bad coach. I think that the national media makes too big of a deal out of the non-losing season stuff, because it's not that impressive when you don't win any playoff games. He hasn't won since 2016 in the playoffs. I mean,
it's a long time. I was actually thinking when it's before your elementary aged child was born,
right?
It's a long time.
It's a long time, especially when you have those opportunities to be in the playoffs. Not only that, they've been destroyed in the playoffs, right? Tomlin is a great leader, great motivator, can get the most out of his players, but he's not an X's and O's guy. And the other problem, I mentioned the franchise quarterback thing. He's a horrible, horrible evaluator of coordinator talent. The coordinators that Pittsburgh has had have been so, he has, how crazy is it that you have a 19-year tenure with a team and you don't have a tree? There's no Mike Tomlin tree at all. Yeah. I mean, Bruce Arians went out and he ended up, but Bruce Arians was established before. Mike Tomlin didn't develop any coach to go on and be a head coach anywhere. It's crazy to think the failures that they've had. Arthur Smith at offensive coordinator has been fine, but definitely not great. Matt Canada was arguably the worst coordinator hire / coordinator that I've ever seen in NFL history, right? I think that is a huge, huge problem with Mike Tomlin, is that he didn't know how to surround himself with the right coordinators, and we can blame Mike Tomlin for that. And you can still blame, I've had a lot of responses being like, oh, he's had no non-losing season in 19 years. Yeah, it sucks making the playoffs every year, but he hasn't had a quarterback in doing that. Guys, the head coach has say in who what kind of personnel they're drafting and working with. It's not like Mike Tomlin, sits in his living room on draft night and has no say in what they're doing at any position, right? Like, he's going to the Senior Bowl. He's going and he's evaluating these guys. They haven't found the answer, and they passed on Jackson Dart last year. You know, like quit this garbage of he hasn't done anything at quarterback, or that he's done a lot with nothing at quarterback when they've had opportunity. They've had opportunity. Like it can be partially on him too. So I think it was just time. I hope he crushes it wherever he goes next. I think he's a really good dude who has gotten a lot out of his players, and he gave a lot to Pittsburgh. And the city of Pittsburgh is a part of me, even though I don't live there anymore.
Yeah,
it's a huge part of me, and I'm very, very grateful that a person could come in and give the city that much.
Okay. We are going. I told you I was going to let you just have the floor for your late round rant. Notice you didn't mention Kenny Pickett, your Pittsburgh boy. Look, drafted in the first round. I forever
loved Kenny Pickett because the dude got my school an ACC championship.
That's right.
It was great, and I was.
So we just real quick, we're going to move Rookie of the Year to the end of the show. Harbaugh available. Who would you choose if you were Harbaugh? Titans or like Giants or somebody else?
I mean, easily the Giants. We said it last week. We ranked them.
Okay. You say easily, but
easily, I would easily take the Giants over the Titans.
Yeah, but now that you hear like Harbaugh's evaluating,
where are the Titans significantly better than the Giants?
Cap room.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, there we go.
They got cap room.
All right,
and no state income tax. So there you go. That's how we get them. Just no state income tax. Country music stars, and you don't have like the New York limelight. We treat celebrities here.
I personally would rather live in Nashville than New York City or in the New York area for sure.
It's a great place to live.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We got to get on to the speaking of Jackson Dart. He is in the cover boy, and he is on this list. So let's get on to it.
This is Julian Edelman from Games with Names. Now let's get into the serious stuff. We're talking football food, specifically Daisy French onion dip.
That is serious.
Gotta try these delicious new dips from Daisy. These are so delicious, they're like homemade dips. Made with real herb and spices and other ingredients you'll find in your kitchen. Also made with some Daisy sour cream. Daisy sour cream is a long-standing staple for Taco Tuesday.
You know what I do? When I get my street burrito, I get the squirt Daisy.
Yeah.
And every bite. I know you. I'm
a huge sour cream guy. I love sour cream.
On top.
So I think burritos can't live without sour cream.
I completely agree with that.
They also have Daisy ranch dip. I love ranch dip.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it with crackers, wings, plain potato chip, the ones with the little crinkles, maybe some bell peppers. So get out there and give Daisy French onion dip a try. You will not regret it.
The late round main event.
I did have some data too that we skipped over there, Kitchen.
I didn't see any data.
Oh wow, did we? That is bizarre. I thought I had some data. Okay, we'll just skip it. I had players who I'll do it next week, but I had players who outperformed and underperformed ADP expectation most at quarterback this past year. But you can look at my Twitter account. I went through all of that on Twitter. That's really weird though that it's not. I guess the image might not have saved down. Let's look at way too early top 10 quarterback rankings for 2026.
Yes.
Again, guys, this is.
It's so funny because again, you said this is not your forte. You want to be like well researched. A lot can happen between January 14th and the season.
I think that early, way too early rankings. They're fun content, but just know that this is just fun content. Okay,
got it.
All right,
got it.
Because people have come to me over the last decade of my life where they want, very thoughtful, accurate analysis and. I don't know how accurate this is going to end up being. Just because
those people just want to know: do you have their quarterback on their dynasty or their keeper team ranked? They just want to feel good about themselves.
Number 10.
Yes.
I thought you were going to do the blackout thing. You didn't do the blackout thing for these.
Okay,
but now we got now everyone can see that Trevor Lawrence is number 9.
Yeah.
Number 10, Brock Purdy. I have Brock Purdy at 10. I honestly think you could argue him up to 8. But you could argue him also down to like 12 or 13. He has back-to-back seasons. This is what's really key about Brock, in my opinion, is that the last couple of years he's been using his legs a lot more. We saw that a lot in that Bears game, that shootout, second to last week of the season or whatever it was, championship week, or maybe that was week 16. But he's been using his legs a lot more. He's had 3.6 points per game via rushing in each of his last two, at least 3.6. He's averaged over 18 points per game over his last 3 seasons. But I think that the reason why we would be more bearish is because of this Kittle thing. But the offensive environment's good. The weapons aren't terrible. You should feel good about attaching a quarterback to someone in this general tree of McVay, Shanahan, sort of that style, the KOC kind of style, although I know the KOC thing didn't work out this past year. Yeah. You should feel pretty good about associating those players, especially when they have a backbone of being a good fantasy asset. So Brock Purdy, number 10.
Okay, let's move on to number 9. You got Trevor Lawrence at number 9.
Well, shocker, right? Trevor Lawrence, man, I think that he could be better than this next year. The one thing I'll say that I don't think is getting enough, I haven't really seen it talked about a lot on social. He had 9 rushing touchdowns in 2025. He's not going to see, that's probably going to be cut in half next year. He'll probably have 4 or 5 if he's
I don't know if you could consider him a league winner, but he was definitely like a best ball advancer. I think he was a league winning type player if you if you were able to hold on to him and use him, just because of when that peak happened. Right. Exactly.
I feel good about because I love T-Law entering the season. He was one of the highest best ball players rostered in terms of, at the quarterback position. And most importantly, in the bold predictions at the beginning of the year, which went over to reddit.com.
Go off, King.
I had Trevor Lawrence would outscore Baker Mayfield. And the first month of the season,
it was looking dicey.
It was looking real rough. Real rough. But the reason I point that out is because that was probably the one bold prediction that I got the most hate for, because a lot of people hate whatever, because T-Law was kind of like a popular, late round pick, like go-to quarterback because Liam Cohen was going to be there, et cetera, et cetera. And I think a lot of people hate it when analysts sort of have similar take. I like Drake London this year, right? And it's another analyst who likes Drake London. But I do think there's some validity to the fact that a lot of analysts were recognizing the importance of Liam Cohen, and we saw it really come to fruition during the second half of the season. Trevor Lawrence, during his final 6 games, was over 27 fantasy points per game. And that's standard. That's -2 points per interception too. The weapons are there. Parker Washington breakout happened, which I'm really excited about, because if you guys go, the Zap model's changed a lot at wide receiver and running back. And it's definitely different than it was back then. But when Parker Washington came out, the model really liked him. He had a positive draft capital delta. There was a lot to like about his profile. Very versatile. He was an early declare. And so it's nice to see those kind of players eventually get something and get there. And I think Parker Washington is a really good slot player who's sort of in that, I don't know, Golden Tate-ish kind of, he's got that kind of vibe to his game where he's just like a complete bruiser. Hines Ward-esque kind of player. So the weapons are there for Jacksonville.
Yeah, Travis Hunter was not even there at the end of the season.
We're not even talking about Travis Hunter when they go trade for Jacoby Myers. Brian Thomas, I think, had some injury issues to start and wasn't totally he started to vibe a little bit towards the end of the year. Parker
BTJ is the least I guess reliable option now, which is crazy to kind of even think of. Mm-hmm. But with some of the drops he had, they got Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers on a 3-year deal, BTJ on a rookie contract, Travis Hunter on a rookie.
Yeah, contract. Brenton Strange is a good tight end. They have the pieces. The offensive line exceeded expectations this year. I think T-Law could be ranked higher than 9. The reason why I have him here is because I'm a little bit worried about that rushing touchdown regression.
All right, let's move on to number 8. You might recognize this quarterback from this past week. He made a really good play. It is Caleb Williams.
Yeah, so I have Caleb at 8. I think that you could flip-flop these guys if you want to. But Caleb, he had an 18.7 fantasy points per game average when his completion percentage over expected in the regular season was actually worse than the NFL according to Next Gen Stats. So he had a horrible completion percentage over expected, but he still finished as a QB1 in fantasy. The weapons are obviously there. We'll see what happens with a DJ Moore type, but regardless. Colston Loveland's coming on. He's going to be an elite tight end. You have Roma Dunze was banged up, but I still think he's good. And Luther Burden could be special. Like Luther Burden could be a really, really good player. So the weapons are there. There's nothing weird about his 4.8% touchdown rate this year. So I don't think there's going to be any weird, wacky regression going on. He averaged well over 400 rushing yards he's averaged well over 400 rushing yards per season so far with his legs. One of the most fun stats. And I remember I had written about this in a data dump earlier this year when I was looking at Keaton Mitchell's 20 mile an hour runs and how the percentage of his 20 mile an hour runs is just crazy. Caleb Williams ranked 9th in the NFL in 20 mile an hour runs. That's not
that
rate.
is absurd.
Runs.
Yeah.
There's a scramble that he had against the Packers this past week. If you guys go rewatch that game, he's going on down the far sideline, and his burst is insane. Like he is so fast, and people do not realize how fast this man is. He was 9th in 20 mile an hour runs. He had more 20 mile an hour runs this past year than James Cook, which is crazy. So I think that should give us some confidence that rushing production is here to stay. But I am a little bit worried about him sustaining some of his deep ball stuff, where his deep ball numbers, like he was fine on the deep ball overall, like completion percentage wise and stuff, but he had 12 20 plus air yard touchdowns according to PFF, which was one of the higher marks in the league, if not actually led the league. And so that number probably regresses a little bit, but there are other places where he can improve and get better. And I think that's a natural thing to think in a Ben Johnson offense going into year 3.
All right, let's get to number 7.
It's Cam Ward. Just kidding.
Someone said Cam Ward top 2, and I just highlighted the comment, just put it right there.
We're going Jackson Dart here. Again, I think the ceiling, like this, I'm not going to be surprised if Jackson Dart is sort of like the cover boy late round quarterback next year, depending on where his ADP lands. I think in sharper drafts, best ball drafts, he's probably going to go around QB 6 to 9 or something like that.
Does head coach shift your either way? Like, let's say they get Arthur Smith as head coach.
Yeah, it'll depend on who they get. Yeah, okay. If it's Arthur Smith, I'm not going to feel that great. But it's more so coordinator, whoever they get there. But
right.
I think what we obviously love about Dart, he averaged 7.3 points per game via rushing. He was 3rd in design rush attempt rate, I should say. And so he's a mobile quarterback. Like he can get a lot done with his legs. If you look at the 21 seasons since 2011, where a quarterback threw 200 plus times and had between 6 and 8 points per game via rushing, the average points per game among those quarterbacks was 19.9. So he was below that mark a little bit. I think he was below that mark, but he was below that mark this year, but he's a rookie. Like we should expect a little bit more as he progresses as a passer. Malik Neighbors, I know that his recovery hasn't gone as well as expected so far, just based on the fact that like he was using a cane or something recently, and that matters, I guess. I'm not a doctor. But hopefully Malik Neighbors is back at some point early next year. And second-year quarterbacks are sort of an ADP hack. They've been really good bets. I mean, this year we had Drake May, obviously, as the huge bet. But, Caleb Williams was not bad versus ADP expectation this year. So I think Jackson Dart is going to be a favorite of mine in 2026.
Okay, let's get to number 6, Mr. Cool Joe Burrow.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, if you look at his games where he's had 20 or more attempts over the last 3 years, he's averaged 19.4 points per game. It's just a really safe high floor option. I am a little bit nervous though. Last year, he had a 6.6% touchdown rate. This past year, so 2 years ago, he had a 6.6% touchdown rate. This past year, also 6.6%. It's a good offense. He's a good quarterback. So like, we're going to be able to sustain that touchdown rate more than a typical quarterback would, but it is a little bit high. It is a number that generally would regress. If he is drafted at the same ADP that he was this year, I'm not going to draft Joe Burrow because it's the exact, I faded him this past year. He was a player to avoid in the draft guide. And if he has the exact same ADP, being the exact same player without any real changes to that offense, there's no reason for me to feel like we should be drafting him at that ADP. But if he's a round 8, round 9 guy, I think it's fine. I think that we can go that route. And I say that you're going to sit there and be like, wow, Joe Burrow in round 8, round 9, quarterback is so deep. I'm not even mentioning guys like Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford on today's list, these guys who are capable of giving us these really big passing seasons. And this is the same kind of archetype of player because you're not going to get massive amounts of, you're going to get some, but you're not going to get massive amounts of rushing production from Joe Burrow, right? So you have to think about the archetype and what we generally see with ceilings here. I'm not going to be surprised. This might sound hot takey, and it's January, so I can say whatever the heck I want to say. But I'm not going to be surprised if I have Jackson Dart ranked ahead of Joe Burrow next year, just because of the rushing upside and what we know works in fantasy football.
Speaking of rushing upside, number 5, Jalen Hurts.
So I know that he burned a lot of fantasy managers. This is going to be really dependent on who they get at offensive coordinator, right?
Surely, though, they have learned their lesson from this past season. You would think.
But here's the thing. I think that Hurts could move a lot on this list, and the only direction he'll probably move is down based on just general.
Yeah, top. He's not going higher than 5, but he could go down.
Yeah, I just don't think he's going higher than 5. So this is probably the peak for him. But look, he's been over 20 points per game in his 4 other seasons outside of this year, where he had a horrible year for all intents and purposes. Like, everyone hated everything about the Philadelphia offense. He still averaged 18.7 points per game, which is not that bad. We got to watch what happens with AJ Brown. Who knows what goes on there, especially with like contract stuff. Kevin Patullo being gone, in my opinion, is huge, because the Eagles last year, 27th in pass rate, 24th in play action rate, which is crazy when you have a run game the way that you do. Even if play action isn't as dependent on the run game as everyone thinks analytically, and there's been a lot of studies that show that play action doesn't really matter having like an efficient run game doesn't really matter for play action purposes. Just run play action and defenders will bite, right? So you want a team and an offensive coordinator who's pretty high on the list in play action rate, because it tells you that they generally know what's going on in today's NFL. They were 24th in play action rate, even crazier with the personnel they had, 29th in motion. If you look at the freaking route charts from AJ Brown and Devontae Smith through this year, very few crossing routes, which are cheat codes in today's game. Just a really dumb offense overall. Kevin Patullo, I said it earlier, just like nothing against the dude. I have no idea who, like, I've never met him before. I'm sure he's
probably
a nice guy. Yeah. But being an offensive coordinator in the NFL was not what he should have done this year. Okay. He just was not ready to have that job. So I don't feel super comfortable with Hurts here. I could put him below a Burrow, a Dart.
Hey,
but I think it's
early. It's way too early. It's okay.
I would say it's way too early. Yeah.
Okay. We don't know. It's early when we don't even know the guy's offensive coordinator, just like this guy right here, Jaden Daniels.
Look, I mean, this is definitely more of like a prayer, type of like a vibes / hope type ranking, but he was injured all season. He still scored 18.6 points per game in games outside of that weird Minnesota one where he was knocked out and they didn't want to, he like came back from injury too early and stuff. It was a weird game in general. Minnesota's a good defense too. But the ceiling is clearly there based on his rookie season. He was top in the league this past year in scramble rate still. And that is a pretty predictive way of looking at rushing production the following year. Now, we don't necessarily need to look at scramble rate to say that Jaden Daniels or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen will scramble, but it is something that we at least can say more concretely that it will happen. But look for that. Look for scramble rate for like other guys. Like Brock Purdy was one last year going into this year or 2 years ago, whatever the case may be, where it was like a little bit higher than you expected. And then he did, he was running a little bit more. But you have OC question marks right now in Washington. I think there's a little bit of volatility here too. Like this is, I still like Jaden Daniels. I would still put him 4, obviously. But I do think that this could move as well based on who they hire and what they do this offseason.
Yeah, they have, I don't know. I can't remember if it's Blow or Blau, but it's David Blau. Is their new offensive coordinator, is promoted. I think he was the quarterback for Purdue back in the day.
Yeah, he played for like Detroit and stuff.
Yeah, because I remember playing him in college football DFS back in the day. But yeah, he's an up and comer. You hope that that he knows what he wants to do with Jaden in that offense, just like whoever is the offensive coordinator for this guy, Lamar Jackson at number 3.
Yeah, I mean, this is like we can go through this pretty quickly because we know Lamar Jackson's ceiling is new coaching staff could be a plus. He hasn't finished below 19.7 points per game prior to this year, which is obviously strong. And then, you just have to hope that this year was more so due to injury than actual talent regression. And I like, it just was a weird year for Lamar, given injuries and stuff that I don't want to just bury the dude based on that. If we can get a discount,
you didn't bury him. You put him top 3.
Yeah, I know.
He was the most frustrating person in fantasy football last year.
But my point is, like, if you could, like, the ceiling is cute. Like, you don't have many quarterbacks in fantasy where the ceiling is actually pairing up, because spoiler alert, Josh Allen is the QB1 on this list. But there are very few quarterbacks in fantasy football that you can feel has the exact same kind of ceiling as Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson's one of the very few. So he's got to be a top 5 quarterback from a ranking perspective.
All right. Number 2, not going to surprise anybody. Drake May, cover boy, and one of your guys that you were high on earlier this year.
Yeah.
Or before the season, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I love me some Drake May, man. Not only because he helped my career this year, but also he's from the area that I live, which is cool. You know, his brother coaches the high school basketball team of the high school that my kids will go to. But yeah, there's going to be a little bit of regression probably with a 6.3% touchdown rate, but he trailed only Jaden Daniels and Justin Fields, who probably shouldn't even qualify, and scramble rate. He scrambled more than Josh Allen this past year, which again, really nice and predictive for future rushing production. He was best in the NFL in completion percentage over expected. And that was within probably, I don't know, we'd call that pass catching group like average probably in New England. And he had the best CPOE in the entire league. Now, I haven't studied completion percentage over expected enough to know the true stickiness year over year. So maybe there is going to be some regression even there happening, because when I approach certain metrics, my general outlook and looking at them is this metric's going to regress. You can't just assume that it sticks year over year. So that's why, like Caleb, it's interesting because he was so low, like he could just improve and then all of a sudden he'd be probably a better fantasy asset. But generally speaking, this just shows that Drake May balled the F out this year. Like he was awesome, right? He's just a safe bet overall. I think he's just really, really good. He's now part of that elite group. He's still young, incredibly young. So to me, Drake May needs to be in the top 2 or 3.
Okay. And number 1, you mentioned it, either good coaches or this guy, it's Josh Allen.
Yeah, there's just no one like him in fantasy football. One of the crazy things, and I talked about this in the draft guide this past year about some of the early round quarterbacks, specifically Josh Allen, is I think there's an argument to be made, especially in like a 10-team league, that he's just underdrafted every year. That the late round quarterback, the guy who wrote the book on that strategy, I'm saying that Josh Allen, just Josh Allen, no one else. Josh Allen is consistently undervalued in fantasy leagues. He has outpaced his ADP expectation by 2 points per game or more.
Yeah.
In each of his last 7 seasons, because we're not drafting him. He should probably be a round 2 pick, but he's usually a round 3 pick. Now, I think in best ball and stuff, it's different because of team construction and how we're playing it. But in a regular season-long league, in a 10-team league especially, with only 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers and a tight end, where quarterback is going to be more meaningful to that lineup, Josh Allen should be a second-round pick at the very least. And so I think Josh Allen's the clear QB1. He's been first or second in fantasy points per game in each of the last 6 seasons. That is insane. It's insanity. It's crazy. So
even more so the past few years, he hasn't really had a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I know. And look, someone in chat saying getting burned on early quarterback was not fun this year. Totally get it. Yeah. There are, I write about this. I talk about this every single year. There are areas and times where you go early quarterback, and then there are areas and times where you don't. Most of the time, you're probably not, right? I do think that Josh Allen continues to be sort of an exception to the rule, but we all know in playoffs, like I had Josh Allen as a sell, remember, like earlier this year, because the playoff schedule was rough. And there are instances where, you know, like the playoffs could just not look good for that player and you're just kind of out of luck and he puts up 6 points, but that could be the case for any player in fantasy, you know? But yeah, early round quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels gets hurt. Jalen Hurts underperforms. Lamar Jackson really underperforms. Yeah. And those were and Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow got hurt.
Yeah. So like those were the 5 guys, and Josh Allen was the only one who was like, okay, but it's been that like Josh Allen has not seen the variance and fluctuations that the other guys have, which is why I had him at QB1, you know, entering the season. I'm going to have him at QB1 again this year.
All right. There's your way too early top 10. You already mentioned JJ, just the quarterback class is deep. I mean, obviously Mahomes got hurt late in the season, but no Mahomes, no Prescott, no Knicks, no Stafford, no Baker.
Yeah. Yeah, no Jared Goff. I mean, how could we not have Jared Goff in the top 10?
Goff. No Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just hoping that there's not Jared Goff, the Jared Goff contingent like we had last year coming after me for having him ranked at like QB 17.
I don't think there will be. I think that that crowd has probably quieted down. All right, let's wrap this up, and I figure we could wrap it up with a little bit of picking your brain who the rookie of the year is going to be. For the nominees, JJ, one person was egregiously left off, even though he set the rookie passing record for the organization and never missed a start. Never missed a start.
Who is Cam Ward battling with? Jake
Will Levis. Will Levis
and Jake Locker. Oh man, tough to break that record.
You might have heard of him. Steve McNair, Vince Young.
Yeah, but that was different. That's all different.
Still the organization. All right. Anyways, we don't.
All right.
Tyler Shuck. By the way, someone in the chat said David Blau was David Bluck because of the Tyler Shuck pronunciation.
Oh, yeah.
Travion Henderson, Jackson Dart, Ashton Jeanty, Tedero McMillan, and Carson Schwessinger.
I think that the rookie of the year should be, I think it's going to be Tedero McMillan.
Yeah.
But I think it should be, people are going to think I'm going to say Tyler Shuck. I think it should be Jackson Dart.
I was going to say Jackson Dart too. Yeah. He just didn't start that many games.
What he worked with, neighbors going down, coming back from like coaching changes, coming back from concussion and such. I thought Jackson Dart was the most impressive. Like in a year where we didn't have a running back or wide receiver or tight end really stand out, right? To me, you got to then just default to quarterback. And who the most impressive quarterback was to me was Jackson Dart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He came in there and did. I feel like from a fantasy standpoint, he was like, yeah, that's what we want. Rushing upside.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, Tyler Shuck was impressive.
He did okay towards the end. He gave him enough.
I honestly think Kellen Moore is a very underrated coach.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Given what we saw in Philadelphia and then, him going to New Orleans and him rallying that team. And even Spencer Rattler wasn't horrific. And everyone's like, why are you benching Spencer Rattler for this guy? And then Tyler Shuck ended up being kind of legit towards the end of the year.
Okay. Let's get out of here, JJ. Just as a reminder, go follow the Late Round, obviously the social accounts, but the newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter. That's the big ask that we have for you, because we got some good stuff going on there, and we'll just be doing more stuff each and every week, JJ.
Yeah, what I'm really excited. So what I've been working on the last week, I've been in my hole and sending Gadula, and you're looking at Dave Gettleman, the Dave Gettleman meme of typing on the computer. But I've been in my hole, and I'll randomly just send stuff to Kitchen and Gadula of like what's going on with the Zap model stuff. But there's been a lot of cool changes with the wide receiver and running back models, not changes in the way of like, completely altering the metrics that are going in, but the way that they're being weighed. And so for instance, just to give you guys a little teaser, like for the wide receiver model, there's a metric that I added that gets more signal for late round wide receivers and not early round wide receivers. And so it kind of, I'm working more on weighing some of these metrics rather than, not that things were linear in nature with the model before, but now there's specific ways that I've worked on it to make sure that I'm giving proper weight depending on the area of the draft that we're in. And so it's really interesting stuff, in my opinion. I mean, it's pretty nerdy for most people, but I think people are going to really dig it. There's also, as a result of all that, I'm going to be changing the way that I'm sort of displaying Zap scores and thinking about Zap scores. So that'll all be in the guide and such, but lots of prospect work starting. I have not dug into the actual class yet. I've just been making sure the models are good with the testing that I do every year. And then once I'm hoping to be done with a lot of that this week. And then once that's over, I can start digging into some of the prospects and stuff. But next week, next Tuesday, the flagship show is back. So you get the regular late round podcast schedule back on Tuesday next week. So there won't just be this one show in the feed every week.
You get that show. And again, we'll be doing more and more stuff from a free standpoint and behind the paywall. Lots of good stuff. JJ, Gadula, and myself last week had our little 2-day planning session. So it's going to be a fun 2026. And we thank you for being along for the ride. And with that being said, JJ, let's get out of here. So on behalf of JJ, I'm Kitchen. We'll see you next time here on the Late Round Fantasy Football Show. Peace.
This is Julian Edelman from Games with Names. Now let's get into the serious stuff. We're talking football food, specifically Daisy French onion dip. These are so delicious. They're like homemade dips, made with real herb and spices, also made with some Daisy sour cream. Daisy sour cream is a long-standing staple for Taco Tuesday. They also have Daisy ranch dip. So get out there and give Daisy French onion dip a try. You will not regret it.
Wasabi is purpose-built to free your business from skyrocketing storage costs and fees. Wasabi is the go-to provider for professional and collegiate sports teams around the world. Check out Wasabi's AI-enabled intelligent media storage, Wasabi Air, to the industry's only cloud storage service with triple protection against cyber criminals. Wasabi, driving innovation in data storage for up to 80% less than market competition. Try for free at wasabi.com. Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage, proud partner of the iHeart Podcast Network.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.